go in through selecting this blue circle right here, and you set everything up. You log in, you create your profile, and then you go ahead and just share with me the email address that you have. And we really recommend you using a personal email address. I previously worked on the Teacher Learning Hub, and it's really kind of tricky when people leave their employment and then they lose access to their school email address, and then it creates a lot of problems, and sometimes people create multiple accounts, and it just gets a little sticky when they are completing courses, and then they have it on they have course completions on two separate accounts. So that's all I really wanted to highlight, just really showing you where that page is and where you go to create your account. Are there any questions about how to create an account or what to do after you create an account? I don't see anyone.
Would you be able to sort of show us the course shell, just sort of what it looks like? So when people get into it, they see it, or is it not quite that far along yet?
I can show you. That's actually right here. So this is our meeting, our collaborative group. So for those of you that haven't taken any hub courses yet, it will instruct you to kind of go in order. The nice handy update that we had this summer was from Moodle 4.0. So it's nice because now we have this really long, well, it's not really long, but it's a really handy dandy meeting just kind of schedule here, and it will check off, and you'll have little green dots on the side as things are completed. One of the things I wanted to highlight is if you're going, oh my goodness, I can't move on. I can't move on to anything. It's not letting me. There's a really important little piece here where it's kind of like a disclaimer, where it's a terms of use that all educators have to click on in every single hub course that they take. And it's just kind of as, what should I call it? Just a policy about activity completions in there, and making sure that it's actually your work. And we're not going to be using this group for that, but that's just kind of a it's in every single course that we have. So it's just kind of signing a little agreement, like, you're going to handle yourself like very professionally, and as you're going through and working through some of these different activities that are in here. And like I said, this has a different goal and a purpose other than a traditional hub course. So I did put in here, you're not going to see it yet until you have actually clicked this, but once this checks off, then you can go in and you will see our November meeting notes and the slide deck that's in there. And then today we have we'll have our meeting slides from today's meeting, and we're also going to be using this Early Literacy Advisory Council report in one of our activities for today. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Sorry. I'm eating popcorn. Sorry. I'm eating popcorn and watching this great movie. So before, I feel like when we met last time, we talked about some of the Board of Public Ed meetings, or the meetings from Lori being linked. Are they going to be linked in the collaborative space on the hub, or just find them in the way we talked about before for future reference?
So I I'm not gonna link any of the Board of Public Ed minutes or meetings or anything. We would just highly encourage you to go to their website where you
Okay.
can find their agendas, and you can also go to their YouTube channel and you can stream any of those meetings. You can
Okay,
watch
awesome.
them, listen.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, take it away, Christy.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Our next agenda item is just a little bit of updates on the activities of the early literacy bill here at the OPI, and then also that House Bill 352 has been codified, so it has its own numbers in the Montana Code annotated now. And so I'm going to see, can I share my screen, Jackie? Yeah, looks like I can. Okay. And so I was just going to show you all where that is, not that that's necessarily where you will spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time looking at the legislative bills and at the code. But what I wanted to show you is here's the bill, House Bill 352. It's still available on the legislative website, but you can also go to the Montana Code Annotated now, and it is in Title 20, Chapter 7, and it is Part 18. Part 18 is the Early Literacy Targeted Interventions. And I like this format here. It's nice because it has them sort of by topic. So the purpose of the bill, this is that real collaborative piece. And so if you just click on this hyperlink, it takes you right to sort of, this is sort of the introduction to the bill that the legislators wrote as they brought this bill through the session. And it really gets to the reason that they brought this bill forward, the reason that this is enacted, the reason they're funding this bill. And a lot of it you can see here is this idea of collaboration. So collaboration between the OPI, the Board of Public Education, and educators. They really want this working together. And this meeting today, I think, is just really one great example of how that's starting to happen, and particularly around early literacy here. So I just wanted to show you where this was. I can throw this into the chat very quickly, maybe. So that you all could follow along. And there we go. The other reason I like about this is if you're coming in, you want to know the definitions. What does a home-based program mean? You can click on those definitions very easily. It talks about the various interventions, and then the early literacy targeted interventions funding and reporting. And I know that that's where a lot of schools sometimes have some questions. And so if you're getting questions from your schools about, oh, how is this going to be funded? Do we get extra money for a student that was enrolled in a Jumpstart program, for example? You can come here and take a look at this legislation and find out some of those answers. It was in the bill, but I find this now that it's been codified, it's sort of an easy way to go back and take a look at this bill and all of the components and pieces. There are a few other codes that were impacted by the bill that they updated. Those aren't reflected here. These are just the new ones, but the other ones that had some changes, you can track those through the original bill process, and it says the chapter and title of where some of those changes happened. Those mostly were in the school finance area for some of those other changes. But I just wanted to sort of celebrate that House Bill 352 is officially in the Montana Code Annotated now. And it is sort of funny that I get so happy about the legislation, but this really, as an educator, this really is one of those bills that has come through that is so exciting to work on. And I thought Lori last week and last month in our meeting, and then also at the Board of Public Education, just really talked so much about the positive impacts that this bill will have for students and educators. And it's just exciting to be part of a legislative piece that does this. So. And then another update from the OPI, the home-based program. Sorry for the scroll here. I'm just going to go back up. But our home-based program, let me go But, yeah. That is what the OPI, the OPI is going to put out an RFP, a request for project, to companies to be able to submit quotes to meet this home-based program. We then will recommend it to the Board of Public Education because the home-based program must be selected by the Board of Public Education. So we will be putting out that RFP. We'll be getting vendors who will come back to us with their proposals. We'll review those proposals. We've been working closely with the Board of Public Education on this. And then we will recommend to the Board of Public Education. They will take action at their meeting on approving the actual home-based literacy program. It's quite a bit of time for that process to go through the State Procurement Bureau. So there are some of those bureaucratic hoops for this process to go through, but we will keep you posted on that process. Right now it's being written, and then we will keep you posted on the timeline so that you all are aware and we'll be able to share, particularly when it goes before the Board of Public Education, and any of those public notices around this will keep you up to date so you can share back with anyone who might be interested, and for you all to know that is on the way. So it's in process and we'll keep you posted on that too. Does anyone have any questions on this part? No? All right, well, I will stop sharing.
You guys are easy.
Not many questions today. Well, we're going to get you all talking here very soon, so.
That's right. I have a surprise to share. Maybe I don't. Technology's not my friend today. Anyway, I had a poll, but I'm not going to put it up right now. So anyway, most of the questions that we have been receiving from both you, the members of the collaborative, and from schools who've been emailing and calling, really have to do with wanting to know more about the evaluation methodology. I know that is something that schools really are wanting to know so that they can prepare. So what we thought we would do today is spend a little time in smaller groups discussing what we know from the notes on the advisory council. And they have some really good, solid information. And I know that there are some people in here who worked on that as well. So if you wouldn't mind, if you know a lot about it, put yourself into a room that does not have somebody else who probably knows a lot about it. And then the rooms are named after Christy, Kimberly, and myself. So we will make sure that one of us is in a room. The information that you need in order to access that is, see if I can find it. I believe I put it in. But you know, things just didn't go that way. Does everybody have the report? Because we did share that at some point. The report from the advisory council. Okay.
I can put it in the chat, Jackie, if
Can
you
you do
want.
that, Kimberly? Maybe you'll have better
Yep.
luck with people being able to open it. I feel like I got placed on lockdown. And so you'll want to access that, but I will share my screen quickly here because I want to point out a few things. See if I can make that be bigger. Come on, kids. No, I have it highlighted. It's all ready. Now it's weirdly highlighted. Okay, here we go. In the notes, you will scroll down quite a ways to at least page 6. in order to get the information for discussing these methodologies. Now, it needs to be said, this has not been approved yet by the Board of Public Education, but this is what is being suggested by the Advisory Council. So it's likely to be in effect the list of what they have approved to choose from. And again, let's remember, schools do not have to choose one from the list, but will have to defend how theirs fits the framework. So on my screen, I believe I'm sharing some highlighted information. Yes. They have defined for us traditional screening versus universal screening. You'll want to read through that a little bit just to understand some of the decisions that they made. Another thing that I highlighted is the council did agree to focus on universal screening tools when they created the list of approved screening tools. And then, I apologize if you were trying to read that. You'll scroll on farther down to Appendix A, and that is where you will find all of the information about the evaluation methodology that has been proposed for new role. Are there questions before I open the breakout rooms? I see none. Okay, so I will open them. Spread out, kids. We can't all go to the PE room. So broadcast. Look at us go. Why don't I get to go in one? Is it because I'm hosting the meeting?
You just need to go look at them and then click which one you're gonna join. I'll go with you. Oh, Allison's in there. I'll go with Kimberly. Do you see where to click?
No, I lost the whole thing.
So if you click breakout rooms, they'll all pop up, and then you'll see Christy, Kimberly, Jackie.
Am I still sharing? Is that the problem? No.
No,
Click on breakout rooms. It's not showing up on my screen.
probably hidden. Maybe you need to get out of full screen.
I'm out of full screen. I've got rooms. Okay, maybe this is what I'm doing wrong.
Okay,
Here I go, sorry.
you're fine.
That everyone did this like in a big group last time, but maybe that'd be nice again. Since I guess since I'm just talking, I could start. My name is Allison Wilson, and I'm an early childhood associate professor at University of Montana, and I direct our Institute for Early Childhood Education. And I also have been sitting in as a guest expert and thought partner for the Early Literacy Advisory Council. So I actually drafted and created those definitions that Jackie was just showing, and put together that table. So I'm happy to answer questions in this group as they come up.
Thank you, yay.
Yeah, this is a good group to join up.
Who else do we have?
So
Oh, you go.
sorry, I'm Amanda Sear. I'm the superintendent at Clinton School District. We started a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old kindergarten program. This is our 3rd year with our literacy grant. So we are just looking at how we can continue this after the lit grant is gone, because we've seen the great impact it's had on the Clinton area.
Awesome. Okay, I'm Whitney. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm blurry, but I don't know. I work for Frenchtown and I teach what is called TK, which is, I call it practice kindergarten. So it's for kids that are old enough to go to kindergarten, but don't have the readiness skills for attending that. So they attend my class and then the following year they go to kindergarten. But our school also offers EK, which is a 4-year-old prep program. So I'm really in the collaborative to find out if I will have a job in TK next year. That's my biggest concern, but also our district just really wants to make sure, because we have a concern about early literacy, that we are able to use the resources as best as possible and that as many kids can get into these type of programs as we can.
100%.
I think, Whitney, you're in the collaborative to figure out how to help your school maintain your position.
Yes, yes.
That's your job.
Yeah.
And I'm Catherine. My video isn't working right now, but I am at Laurel School District. I am the principal of a 4-year-old half-day pre-K kind of program and 7 kindergarten classes. And so just part of this to see how we can continue our pre-K program and work on some literacy to get kindergartners ready.
Good. I'm Jackie. And I'm with OPI, and of course the early literacy coordinator, which is and I have a new probably job description every day. I just, this is a brand new thing. This has been fun. We've hit the ground running, and I'm really excited to have you guys help me and us help you figure out how to continue to provide the necessary services to our communities. So I think I can share my screen inside of a breakout room, but maybe it won't let me. If you'd like, I guess because I could pull up that report if that helps, Allison.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you.
Here we go. And you tell me where you'd like me to drive to. What do we want to accomplish here in, I think, 30 minutes?
Well, so maybe I could just give a little bit of background on those 2 definitions and then how that informed the creation of that spreadsheet, because that was really the starting point and determined the inclusion or exclusion criteria for what is on that spreadsheet. So what I will say is do know that everything that the Early Literacy Advisory Council has done has been based on the guidance of the specific verbiage and just logistical phrasing that is in HB 352. So just know that there's everything that you see here came with lots of conversation and discussion, and ultimately really just came down to the minute point of why the bill was written, and so that was what determined the guidance. So the bill specifically called out a need to have some type of screening tool to determine the eligibility criteria for a child to enter a program, a 4-year-old targeted literacy classroom-based program, as well as the Jumpstart programs, et cetera. But a universal or a screening tool needed to be determined. And the particular criteria for qualifying based on the bill was that child would be determined to be at risk for later 3rd grade reading rates, and really specifically the tool needed to capture those early literacy indicators of risk. And so you'll see here these 2 definitions that are widely used in the early childhood field, so birth to age 5 specifically, of a traditional screener versus a universal screener. So prior to that spreadsheet being created, there was a long list of screening tools that folks were familiar with, that they had heard of, that they might use in their programs, whether it be private or public programs. And the way that we categorized those were based on these definitions. And so a traditional screening tool being really more of a developmental screener, so really looking at where a child is at across those broad developmental domains like communication and motor skills, cognitive skills, etc. And those are the types of screening tools like the Ages and Stages questionnaires, the DIAL, for example, the early screening inventory. Those are the tools that you see in classroom-based programs, home visiting programs, and also pediatrician's office. And the next step, so we framed it in this way of the question that those screening tools answer is this child at risk for qualifying for a disability or a delay? So based on this screening tool, should they be referred for additional evaluation in order to potentially qualify for Part C or Part B services in that sort of a way? So it's really a global look, and that those tools aren't necessarily sensitive enough to capture anything pertaining to content of early literacy indicators that would be tied to third grade reading rates. Rather, they're more appropriate for screening into potential eligibility referral. And so then we also looked at the other definition of a screening tool, which is a universal screening tool, which they're designed in the same sort of ways as those traditional ones. They're really quick and easy to administer, but they really focus on more specific content areas. And so specifically, many of them in the area of early literacy. And so they answer the question, does this child need more instruction or academic intervention? So they're designed and normed for really different reasons. And that universal screener really being specific to the content area of literacy. They have them for math as well as like social emotional learning, et cetera. But we looked at the literacy ones. These universal screening tools are also tools that, in addition to being an initial screener, they also have the capacity almost all the time to be used as a progress monitoring tool, so that once a child was determined to be qualified to be admitted into a 4-year-old classroom-based program funded with the backing of 352, that same tool could potentially be used as progress monitoring checkpoints throughout that year in the 4-year-old program, prior to when they transition, into K-2. And so, those are that's it in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions about those two definitions, or kind of when you see the spreadsheet, everything that's included on there would fall underneath the universal screening criteria, and anything that was initially added was excluded from that spreadsheet on the basis that it would have been a traditional screener.
But I found this to be very helpful. Because I think you'll find many schools are using traditional screeners. And
yes, and absolutely. And that was, a starting point of the conversation, and really helped to anchor kind of the direction of our work. And what I will say is that I will say this personally and professionally, and also even on behalf of the Early Literacy Advisory Council, the idea is that the use of a traditional screener within one of those 4-year-old programs is totally fine to continue to do. It's just not appropriate to use that as a qualifying mechanism for entrance into the 4-year-old program based on how this particular bill is written.
Do you guys have questions to this point? Okay. We'll slide down.
I actually do have a question, sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's fine.
Okay, so I feel kind of dumb because our screener that we've used in the past to screen for kindergarten was not on the list. So I want to go look at it, but will it say on it if it's a universal one, or is it
what tool do you use?
the KESA?
I'm not familiar with that tool.
Not either.
I will try to look it up for you guys, and if I can't figure out which one it is, I'll tell you before the next meeting. Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, so Whitney, I think there's a decent framework that's gonna come out of this for how to look at the assessment you are already using
Okay, great.
to decide if it, you know, and that's what we're here for, to help
Okay.
schools decide if what they're using and would like to continue to use will get the right outcome.
Thank you. Sorry.
Mhm.
I'll speak myself.
No,
It's
it's really,
okay.
those are really good questions, and those were the same questions that came up on this advisory council as well too.
So I scrolled down here and it looks like they want to make sure that the evaluation methodology to identify and enroll and admit is looking at these specific items. So
Yeah,
for
so
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So once that initial blanket criteria of is it a universal screener or is it a traditional screener, after that filter was applied, then we had a list of universal screeners. And there's a lot of universal screeners out there that are literacy, and there's a lot of universal screeners out there for early numeracy as well too, and some of them capture all of them. It just sort of depends, but for the purposes of this bill and the way that the language was written, the selection of a universal screener for these purposes had to be capturing indicators based on what you see here on the screen as they pertain to early literacy. And the big ideas that you see here, the key components of early literacy that you see here are really pulled from the 5 pillars of the science of reading. And the reason that you'll see that they are broken out distinctly for 4-year-olds prior to kindergarten, so kind of like 5 to 6, and then prior to 1st grade, is because, as many of y'all I'm sure are very familiar, developmentally you're going to see different indicators, and some are more appropriate based on the certain ages. So we know that for a 4-year-old, phoneme awareness might not be appropriate, but looking for phonological awareness is going to be appropriate. And so that's why you see that those indicators are different across those ages. And so that those A, B, C, and then the numerals underneath them are what inform the crosswalk on that spreadsheet. And so the selection of tools that have been predetermined as just already meeting those eligibility would be capturing at least one of those areas. So for a 4-year-old universal screening tool, it has to be specifically designed intentionally to capture and be a universal screener in the area of oral language, phonological awareness, and or alphabetic knowledge. So it could capture all of those. It's possible that there's a screener that does that, but it's also okay if it's only one of those indicators. So you can see that it becomes much more complex, and really you're looking at the developmental progression of early literacy from age 4 through 3rd grade. Yeah.
And so I'll just go then down here to this guy.
Yeah, so that's maybe just the spreadsheet. Yeah, this is a list of everything that's in the spreadsheet, but I think the way the spreadsheet's organized is a little bit more visually accessible, I guess. Yeah, so on that first page, it starts the screeners that have been predetermined as already meeting, without having to submit something, are organized in an age continuum, so starting with the age of 4. And you'll see that again for age 4, there's only those initial 3 areas of early literacy. And if you were to continue scrolling down, you'll see that the gray area ungrays, and as you get to the older ages, there's those older developmentally appropriate indicators associated there. So you'll see a variety of.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
As you can see that. Do you want me to make it smaller again? I didn't know if you needed to be able to read it.
Know what others think, or if you have the link, you might be able to just kind of scroll on your own to look across. And again, you'll see that I think that Jackie's on the 5-year-old and above page there, and so you'll see that some of those earlier indicators are blurred out as you move out of the 4-year-old age range. And so the spreadsheet just has a list of the universal tools, a brief description, the age range, the specific focus, and then there's an X marking the cell that would correspond to one of those predetermined components of measurable literacy indicators.
Do any of your schools currently use DIBELS in the elementary school or Acadience?
We use DIBELS. So we just use it as a qualifier for title. We use DIBELS, and then we use MAPS, which our kindergartners even take MAPS now. But we use another one. It's not DIBELS or MAPS, but we have 3 that we use for qualifications for a title. Typically not earlier than kindergarten. That's where it all starts.
And that would be appropriate because DIBELS and then the newer versions based on who the publisher, Acadience, those tools were really created by the assessment creators and norms for children starting at the age of 5, so it wouldn't be appropriate to apply them down to the age of 4. And that was a big part of the conversation in this collaborative, and truly this spreadsheet, the bulk of the work really came down to the 4-year-old appropriate tools, because in K-12 public education, we don't have 4-year-old programs typically. And if we are having 4-year-old programs, they're not necessary. They might be kind of attached onto an existing kindergarten, like with the exceptional circumstances. One thing that we did look at, it wasn't an exclusion or exclusion criteria for the 4-year-old tools on there, but it was a point of conversation. We did look at if there were commonly used screening tools like DIBELS or Acadience, if they had a 4-year-old version of that. And for Acadience, they do, and it's the PELI. And so that is actually the 4-year-old version of what that existing tool is. And so it's aligned in that same sort of a way. The MyIGDs is also one that transitions into that, as well as like with EasyCBM. They're very similar tools. However, they're explicitly designed for 4-year-olds.
Have you guys found any, we use FastBridge kindergarten through 8th, anything similar or linked to FastBridge for 4-year-olds, or any of these tools?
Off the top of my head, I don't believe that there was a specific 4-year-old tool version for 4-year-olds that was associated with FastBridge. However, I'd say that for the most part, the majority of these 4-year-olds screening tools are going to collect data in similar ways as those like FastBridge or DIBELS or Acadience. I don't think there was a 4-year-old version that was published by the creators of FastBridge.
Okay,
there was just a couple. One was Early Bird was one, PELI, and then MyIGDs is pretty much aligned with almost all of them, just off the top of my head when I think of the 4-year-old tools.
Great, thank you so much.
We use STAR K through 8 and STAR Early Lit at Clinton School. And we were going to try it with our 4-year-olds right now, because even our kindergarten kids really struggle with it, because it's on the computer. They have to be able to use the mouse, and out. And so I'm very interested to see our 4-year-olds capable of getting through it. It says it's for pre-K, but I have a hard time.
There's the STAR Early Literacy, and I think that so that's unique to it's unique from the others for the STAR for older children, I believe. I haven't personally used that, but I do remember looking into it and researching it. But again, I would say that for some of these, across the board on the gonna be
You're breaking up, Allison.
on
Yep.
as far as right, all of them run in the same range, but the delivery method of them is going to vary.
Yeah.
I missed about half of that because you kind of broke up in and out. Sorry, that last couple sentences.
That's okay. Yeah, I apologize. I saw like an internet connection thing on my screen there, of course. I was just meaning that all I was saying really was that the delivery method of some of the tools vary. And so some of them might be paper pencil or just like a quick, 5-minute snapshot, and others might require, a software interface.
I think the discussions that I have had, Amanda, I'm sure it's important to you that if you're using a new tool that you can transition seamlessly to it, so that the
Right.
people who are doing the assessing for you don't have to necessarily learn something brand new. And you're used to collecting the data from it, how to retrieve it and what it looks like and that kind of thing. So I think, there's probably something on here, even if it's not STAR, that will do that for you.
Yeah.
I know that the Peli, there are schools who worship at the feet of the University of Oregon. So, which they should, but I didn't say that. That's my opinion. That the Peli is a gold star when it comes to DIBELS. So if you use DIBELS throughout your elementary school for whatever reason, you've got that longitudinal data then. So
I'll also say that, the thing with universal screeners is they're designed to be simple and quick and easy to use. And for the most part, most of them require very minimal, if any at all, training in order to implement them. I mean, of course, some minimal level is going to be required for anything, but as far as like being able to access the tool itself, without going through some, extensive training, by the publishers or creators. It's pretty simple. The Peli has a really quick online module, essentially.
yeah. If we're comfortable that you have the information that you have been looking for or know enough to share with other schools, we could use the last 5 minutes to talk about something else that we might be able to get Allison's ear on here if you'd like. Speak up now.
Well, I think that this is a good resource that we can look at and take back and,
Yeah.
See how we feel, and then ask questions next time about it.
And we do
One thing
want
that
you
I-
to share with your friends and neighbors in your counties.
One thing that I would say is that, especially if there's a tool, especially for the 4-year-old tools, if there's a 4-year-old tool that you're not explicitly using in your school district, but it's created by the same publisher as maybe one of the K-12 ones, it's likely, and you're interested in pursuing that, it's likely that they're gonna help you out with getting access to that, especially knowing that how that could be beneficial to other districts in the state of Montana. That's just how they operate. So yeah, just a good conversation starter.
One question I know that Whitney has asked, and I was actually going to come to the advisory panel with this question. Do you want to ask it, Whitney? It was you asked about, so if they have students who are 5 years old, that means they're eligible to go to kindergarten. So are we hearing that students can only do 1 year of kindergarten, no matter if they're age eligible or not?
So I think what you're asking is, so like, would the transitional kindergarten and the way that Whitney, the way that you've described how you enroll and admit in that transitional kindergarten, based on what Jackie just said, it sounds like they are age eligible to go to kindergarten, but you're offering kind of that extra year. So though that group of children, I don't believe would be eligible to be enrolled in a classroom that's receiving A and B funds by 352, because the way that it's written is that it's 4-year-old, but not yet eligible for kindergarten. It's almost like there's almost a sentence that says exactly that. It doesn't mean that your district can't continue to offer a program like that in the same way that districts can offer universal preschool. They just don't get A and B funding for it, right? But for this particular bill and the way that a classroom-based early literacy intervention would qualify for collecting that A and B for 4-year-olds specifically, I don't think that children who would qualify at the start of the year to go into kindergarten based on their age level would be eligible to be in that classroom.
Okay, that actually does kind of answer. I just have a little bit further question. So currently through OPI, my class, and I'm sorry everyone else, I apologize. But this might affect you also.
So good questions.
It's listed as a kindergarten class, like they have the kindergarten report card, they have the kindergarten schedule. So because in the bill it says something about multi-year kindergarten, my superintendent and administrator were like, well, your class is canceled. And they also said, we don't think there's any funding for your class to go to kindergarten next year. And I was like, well, that's why I'm on the collaborative. Like, we need to find out what's going on. So it sounds like what you're saying is that this legislation is in effect if children are 4, but not affecting 5-year-old classes in existence, or do we not know?
So, I mean, I think that what you're describing, so let me just say this, and then let me know if you can make any sense of this based on your specific context. So there's the 4-year-old programming, which that's kind of the new piece to this, is being a district being able to collect A and B for programs specifically for 4-year-olds. But then there is accountability on the part of that district that for children who are exiting that 4-year-old program and going into kindergarten, that there's continuous monitoring of those early literacy indicators by using one of those screening progress monitoring tools from the spreadsheet. But as far as like funding goes, I feel like public schools already fund 5-year-old programs. So I'm just not really, I guess I don't know. So I'm really just speaking to the 4-year-old programming.
Yeah, okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I'm not muted, sorry. No, that does make sense. So yeah, I'll keep investigating, but it's very good to know because we also have a 4-year-old program, which we want to grow or continue. So it's all helpful information. I will keep on finding out my answers.
I think that 352 on the easiest way is a yeah. So like the exceptional circumstances that you currently offer for those 4-year-olds, if this is obviously that's ending and then this 352 would be starting, it's not necessarily you wouldn't be able to say that those 4-year-olds, those same ones, would be able to qualify for 352 because the way that you qualify is different. But I think it's
Where's everyone else? I can't hear you.
You're muted.
I have to close the rooms at Bossy.
Oh,
Close all
yeah.
room?
Yeah, close all the rooms, and then it'll force them back into this session. Because I was like, oh, leave, and then I'm like, leave, wait a minute.
But Lee should have just brought us back to the main room. That was so strange.
I had to choose. Do I want to leave or leave?
You're the host.
Or, yeah. Great discussions. At least the room I was in. So, nobody cried.
I know we're in early literacy, but hopefully I mean, if you need to, this is also a safe place. We get it.
Wasn't there kind of thought that I was gonna cry, probably.
You're still in your classroom right now, so it's okay. Yeah. I remember those days very clearly.
Here comes a poll. Now I'm going to launch this just for some comic relief.
I need an other.
other, is that you, Joellen?
Yeah, do you have something like woman run over by a truck?
Your grandma and the reindeer.
Your reindeer.
There I am. Yep, I'm grandma. I just been run over by the reindeer. Why isn't that on there?
Some of you are eating spaghetti with maple syrup. Eat a carrot, kids. Won't hurt you. So let that poll keep going for a while. Over here. Definitely a lot of Buddy the Elves. You're happy. Christmas is coming. You love Santa. Good to hear.
Jackie, who are you?
Oh, I didn't pick. You. I'm Cindy Lou. And that's what I was humming when you all started coming into the meeting. My new work friends, Caitlin, are figuring out my humming things.
I texted Jackie that we missed her humming.
So I'm going to end the poll, but thank you for participating. Did everybody know who Kevin McAllister is? Oh, thank goodness. I was afraid I'd aged myself. Share results. There we have it. Lots of buddies. And Santa and Cindy, they're equals. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for the larger group with regard to the evaluation methodologies and how that all came to play? Or general comments? I see Christy unmuted, so.
Yeah, we had a really robust discussion just about sort of some of the ideas that ways that, you know, if these go forward and are, you know, adopted as they appear to be, you know, providing some frameworks for educators and districts to understand how to choose the evaluation methodologies, having some definitions on what some of those very particular points mean. You know, like within, we were looking particularly at Appendix C of that document, providing some definitions around those that might not be in rule, but that might be in guidance documents. We had a good question about the cost of screeners. You know, that's sort of, what is that going to mean? I think districts and, you know, any board of trustees or schools that are interested in pursuing this and participating in this, they're going to want to know what that cost is. And I think those were some, anyone else from my group can feel free to jump in, but I was just trying to capture some of our highlight discussions. And we talked a fair bit at the end about the Board of Public Ed's next steps. Are they looking at the early childhood standards? I may be saying that wrong. We are backing them up. And then how those are connecting with the early learning standards. And so, but they are working at the ones that the Board of Public Ed has an administrative role in updating those. So Lori will be giving us more updates on that as that goes along.
Would anybody else want to share? Okay. According to the agenda, next steps is there, but we would like to share with you a one-pager that we have been working on to get your input on if it has enough information or the correct or useful information for you to be sharing with your schools and communities and counties and neighboring schools. So that is what I will do next. Nobody click your heels or cross your fingers. That's not going to help. Okay. This is in PDF form, and that is how you would receive it to share. There has been some conversation around what we title it up here. As you know, it's now been codified. So your input on what we would call it to catch people's attention is welcome. So basically, this just takes most of the parts of the bill, and I tried to discuss this in more layman's terms, readable, just quick, easy points to answer some questions. And again, this would likely go on our webpage under early literacy. This would go out to superintendents and trustees, communities. It was even brought up that maybe we share this in local libraries. So if you, let's see, if I scroll slowly, can you look? What do you have it in front of you to read yourself? How's best to have a look at this as a group?
Do you want me to put it in the chat, Jackie? I can, and then that way they can.
Would you please?
Yep.
No, we can make it a discussion post within the hub.
Yeah, I actually have it. That's a good point, Marie. I have it linked in the collaborative meeting place, meeting spot. I hope this will take you to where you need to go. And so we could open it up and put a discussion. I do have one forum in there for you to start out with. I should have said this, where you're going to introduce yourself. I know we kind of introduced ourselves during the first meeting, but we do have some participants here today that weren't here at our last meeting. So I think we could definitely, I could add that activity in there, and we could have this one pager listed there, and then we could just open it up to a discussion for what do you see, what do you think, any input, any positives, challenges. You know, we could definitely open it up, and then that would be a great place for everyone to kind of go through and look and see what they see.
One thing that is not included on this is really any information about funding. There's still some conversations to be had and some interpreting. So I think we don't want to rush out with information. I guess I think if we're going to put it in the hub, I think that's awesome. And if anybody could, you know, in the next week, look over that and put some comments. The main thing is, does this give you the information to be able to share? Is really the main thing. So we all know it, obviously, as House Bill 352. But there are many, many people out in the state of Montana that have no idea about any of it. So we want them to be able to access the information as well. Let's see. Were you able to open it when it was shared in the chat, folks? Okay. Then, unless there's other discussion, let's deal with that in the hub. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yep.
Jackie, this is Laurie. I would encourage you to share this with McCall Flynn as well.
She has seen it. She actually edited it. But yes, and actually, Lori, she shared your informational page that you made for your district with us.
Okay.
So yeah, so let's have everybody try to take care of looking at this and making some comments or suggestions in the hub. Can I ask before Christmas? I know you're all busy. And then we want to talk about moving our next meeting.
Oh, I think we had a
Oh, we have a
question.
question.
Can you receive funding for the summer program and the classroom-based program?
You mean both?
You know, and Amanda, I am gonna say that tonight at 7 o'clock, not to put you onto another Zoom meeting, but I invite you to join our family discussion this evening by our chief legal counsel here at the OPI. He's discussing this bill, and that would be a great question to ask him. He may or may not quite have the answer, but he should be able to extrapolate that from the legislation. So he's going to be doing a community night tonight. It's on Zoom. I will pop the link into the chat where you can find that the Zoom link to join. And yes, that meeting, we record it, and I'll show you. In fact, I'll just share my screen so you can find this information really quickly here.
But it says, the law says you get 0.25 A and B for the summer program and a regular A and B for the 4-year-old. So yes, you can get 1.25 A and B. I mean, I would trust the legal attorney over me if you want to jump in on that one. But with the work that I've done, that's my understanding, is you can get 1.25 A and B for a kid who does summer program and your traditional school year.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you, Lori.
But you have to fund it ahead of time, right? If you're going to have it this summer, you're going to have to pay the teacher while she does it, and you're not going to get to collect A and B until once you claim it, you know?
Okay.
So again, I'm not trying to jump whatever that attorney's going to say is. I'd probably go with his advice, not mine. But that's my understanding. And same thing, if you already have a 4-year-old program, so you're earning A and B this year, then you would have funding to go into next year. But if you don't have a 4-year-old program and you're just now starting one, you're going to have to come up with the money to pay that teacher during the year, because you know you don't get the A and B until the next year.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but it is 1.25.
Thank you.
Does anyone have different information than that? I don't want to jump an attorney, but that's my understanding.
No, Lori, that's the most consistent message I've gotten as well. So
Thank
glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, I just didn't, I mean, for people who can't go to that tonight, that's the quick answer.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
the quick answer, Lori, and thank you for sharing that. But I think your point, Lori, is one thing that I've been a little worried about, is that there is the district has to invest some ahead of time a little bit, right? Like it's not ahead of the time. You kind of have to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have some money to do it.
Right. And that is definitely true for sure. But just here on the screen, for some reason, it just did part of the link. So I tried to get the correct link there in the chat. But the upcoming events, after the legislative session closed, the superintendent started to have some community night Zoom discussions with our chief legal counsel, sort of talking about the bills in various ways. And a lot of these were just some new topics. Charter schools, for example, you can see here on the list, they talked about that. And he shares the bill, talks about the legislation, talks a little about those funding pieces that are in the bill. And then we put a recording of the meeting. So you can see that all these previous ones have recordings here tonight. After we get that recording ready to go in the next couple of days, it will pop up here. And it's a chance people come in, and it's a Q&A. And so I will be on because there's a lot of implementation. If there are implementation questions, I can try to answer those. But our chief legal will be leading that discussion on just the bill itself. And this is a bill that is, it's an exciting bill, and most everyone is quite supportive and really interested to learn about it. So it's going to be sort of just I think a really great discussion, and probably won't go too long, but it starts at 7.
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is, I'm sorry, Lori, go ahead.
So Christy, minus you telling us that tonight, how would we have known that was happening? I mean, Is
Yeah,
there a
this-
communication specialist at OPI that should probably be sending that
There-
to superintendents so we can
yeah,
share with
And
families?
he
I mean, I'm
sent-
just thinking, I'm highly invested in this. I'm on the council, I'm on this collaborative, and I have no idea this is happening tonight.
So we, this one has gone out and it comes out in the press releases. So this came out in a press release, a few
But are
days
those press
back.
releases, I gotta go to the website and find them if I'm interested? I mean, can press releases not be sent to the superintendent listserv?
They should be.
You
I
can
thought
sign
they
up for them.
I,
Yeah.
look, I've signed up for everything you got.
Yeah.
I've signed up for
So-
everything you got. I got nothing.
If you, I'm gonna drop this in there.
I see
and
my
you
friend
can-
Wade shaking his head yes. Like you're agreeing with me, Wade, or you think I'm crazy?
You didn't get it either, Wade?
So
No,
I
I
just,
agree. Yeah, I have. This was the first that I'd heard of these things.
okay, so I just dropped into the chat,
Right, I mean, I'm not gonna attend. We have a
Oh,
board meeting.
yeah.
I'm talking about principal, not, I want to get to that meeting. But
absolutely.
I'm just saying that if people in this group or on the council who are highly invested in this and want the information and want to be as educated and knowledgeable as we can be, aren't aware of this, I doubt people who aren't, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just thinking that if there are these big announcements, if there's a press release, it feels like press releases should come out to us, not we have to go get them.
So I dropped the press release in there, and the only reason I dropped it in there was because on the right-hand side, there's a widget that you can put your email directly in, and I did it with my personal email to test this out, so I'm not just getting OPI ones, like making sure I get those ones.
Okay.
But if you put your email in that will subscribe to our press releases.
But it only, when you do it, because I've done it like 5 times, the only option is monthly. Sorry, everybody. I hope I'm
No,
not hijacking.
We
But
want it to
that's-
be totally transparent, so
yeah,
thank you.
This is what comes up. I can subscribe to
Okay.
monthly communication in the Compass. There's nothing for press release.
Mm-mm.
Okay,
This is what comes up every
so
time.
we'll talk to our communications director to see how we fix that for you.
There's so many things that people keep saying, are you signed up for? No, because the only thing you can sign up for are these. This is all that comes up, no matter where you are.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you, Lori, for sharing that.
Sorry, I
We'll
didn't mean
look
to
into it.
hijack. I just,
Not
I'm
at all.
just feeling like
Lori-
if our job is to communicate,
Yeah,
we're not
It
covering that
absolutely
too well.
is. And I was under the impression that those press releases went out to you, like to a similar listserv, at least to the Compass. So, and you get the Compass.
Yeah.
Because that's what was there, but I understood that the press releases did the same. And
My understanding, and I'm only speaking for Laurie, but I talked to a lot of my colleagues, we're not getting press releases.
Okay.
And so I think OPI is feeling like we're communicating because the information's out there, and we're feeling like you're not communicating because we're not getting them. And then both groups are frustrated.
That is good to know. We will see what we can do. I will. Marie and I will talk about. Although it's fine.
yeah, we don't want there to be any barrier in transparency by
No.
any means.
Mhm.
We want the information in your hands because we want to be partners with you, very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll look into that for you, Lori. Thank you for pointing it out. That doesn't bother us at all. We need
No,
to
awesome.
know what.
Hey, just for clarification, I sent that exact same thing last spring. This is what it looks like. I'm trying to subscribe, help. So I've
But it
asked for
wasn't
this.
to us. We
Yeah.
weren't here. So now.
Got you.
We're on it.
Fantastic. Get in there and fix it.
We will.
Hey,
Perfect.
seriously, thank you, ladies. I appreciate the help.
Of course. And Jackie, I think our last order of business is the calendar, our
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah. So our next meeting is scheduled for January 10th. Putting out there, could we move to January 24th so that our next meeting comes after the Board of Public Education meeting? Allowing us to have the most amount of information that we can when we come back together.
Works for me.
Sounds great.
Yes, thumbs up.
Perfect.
Okay, so then that's what we'll do. And so then the next question is this: do we want to move all of ours to the later date so that we're always after the Board of Public Education meeting? Or have you all just started? Do we want to think on that and come back to that in January? Because we know how once something goes on your calendar, you fill in around it, so. We'll come back to it.
Sounds good.
Okay. thank you. I hope that you're leaving with at least one bit of information more than you came with today. Now you have one more thing to search the website for, press releases. Hopefully we'll get that fixed for you soon. Good to know. Feel free to email us throughout the month until we meet again. And don't forget to go into the hub and check out the one pager, so that we can, get closer to getting that out to people.
And if you need to establish your hub account, please email me with your email address so I can add you to the collaborative space on the hub. Otherwise, you won't be able to access it because it's a closed group. So thanks, everyone.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Humming.
Jackie's here. She's humming.
I know, that is so funny. I love it. Oh my gosh. You did it.
Nice job, everyone. What do you feel?
I just feel weird about the whole sharing thing. I've had those open all week, and I think that's why. Nothing wanted to work because I haven't closed them. I haven't turned off my computer.
It's so frustrating. Yeah.
It's okay. We got
They're
it.
all used to it.
We got it.
Everyone, we all roll with these things. We definitely just, technology is what it is. And so people are pretty used to rolling with
It makes
that.
us all feel more human.
I agree.
Right. I thought my discussion group was wonderful.
Mine too.
I had Allison Wilson, and she actually was the author on everything we were looking at. So,
and I had Lori happen to be in mine, so
That's why I jumped to Kim's, because I saw where those two were. So I was like, ooh, good. Perfect.
It's funny.
It went well.
Good. And I think, when people are frustrated with information at OPI, that's just how it'll always come out. So
it is. And it's really interesting because I really thought the press release announcement went out, because I get them in my inbox. I thought it went to the Compass one.
Yeah.
But there's probably a reason that they don't do it, but I'll talk to Brian. He's just out. I think he's still here. I'll go talk to him and ask him about it.
Yeah. And I just resubscribed in my personal email just to see. I'm like, I gotta see.
Okay.
Learning moment for us. It's regarding our work. We should have sent it out to the collaborative as soon as we found out about it. Just a second. Right?
Yeah. Sent what out?
We should have sent that information out that's happening tonight if they wanted to be a part of it.
Yes, that is really a good point for sure.
Yep. And they did just post it yesterday. I know that the whole schedule, but the press release went out yesterday. So when you have board meetings, things like that,
Yeah.
But it will be recorded. Everything that happens is recorded.
And it just went yesterday, Marie. I thought it went out a couple days ago.
No,
I guess that's how my time frame goes. I haven't been here 5 days already.
Right. I have to go. I have to go see my doctor about my high blood pressure, which is now low. So, and I'm planning on being on tonight. I was gone half the morning for a concert. So,
okay. We, I think the only thing I would just love, I think probably what we should think about doing is how we're going to kind of keep the early literacy page website updated with like information about these meetings, things like that. So maybe make a meeting with me next week and we can kind of talk about that part of just, because now we've got 2 meetings under our belt, and I think we need to, I think we should just throw up some minutes or a brief summary or that kind of thing like we do with the school leadership office hours or something like that. I don't know that we need to share the recordings with the public. I think we can probably just do a little summary, but that way it keeps that transparency going. And yes, I really wish I would have emailed the collaborative about tonight. I guess I didn't.
Well, none of us thought of it.
I didn't know until I saw the press release.
We didn't score a point. Maybe we'll have another opportunity.
I just she's one that I love that she tells it like it is, because if she thinks it, someone else probably is too. So I'd rather them tell us directly. Like, I'll take it any day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wade was nodding, agreeing, so we just need to share that. So I'll follow up. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you all later.
Sounds good. See ya. Have a
Bye.
good night,
Bye.
everyone.